por si cambios de clase o lo que sea. Entonces, bueno, presento a Martín Vigo, que es de Salesforce, que es la... Well, we should be doing this in English, so let's change again. So we have Martín Vigo here. He works for Salesforce, which is the same company where Uncle Prado used to work.
He was actually my manager.
Yes, exactly. But Uncle changed twice already. He just changed. I don't know if you're aware of that, but if he didn't tell you, I don't tell you. But it's in a different company. Unfortunately for Salesforce.
Yeah.
Probably they didn't pay well.
And more stuff that is no, it's hot topic.
Okay. So, has prepared a presentation based on the DEFCON conference of Las Vegas last summer. That's I think it's the best because I'm more on the technical part. The two biggest conferences in terms of security in the world are Black Hat and DEFCON. I don't know if you're... But Black Hat, they say that now it's like more expensive, it's a little bit more enterprise oriented or something like that, and DEFCON is a little bit more lower level and more real hacking.
More cool. That's what he's trying to say. But yeah, that's true. It's more enterprise oriented. Black Hat, DEFCON.
Right. So the presentation is more or less based on that. So everything is working. We may start with a just quick survey. So how many people from second year of master, and then first year of master, okay, and then fourth year of undergrad, third year of undergrad, okay, and then something else that I didn't ask. Where? First year. Okay, good. Okay, so well, now you know what you have.
All right. So I'm super excited that you guys are actually interested in coming to learn about security. I'm going to try to make it very interesting as also teaching you how to hack stuff. Don't be evil. So some of the stuff that you will see here can still be done. It's highly legal, so don't do it. We're just talking about it because it's for education purposes, and the only way to be able you guys go to fix this kind of stuff is to actually know about it, right? So my name is Martin Vigo. That's me when I was like 9 years old. My first computer was an Amstrad CPC 6128. This was an amazing machine. It's how I learned to write in BASIC. I'm from Galicia. I'm a product security lead at Salesforce. And I really like doing research, like basically thinking about stuff that I find and just try to break it, and then talk about it at conference and get paid for it. I like scuba diving and I like back bounties, which you can make some good money and actually become an even better security engineer. So, who knows La Bahía del Crimen? Yeah, amazing. Because it's the best game ever written by a Spanish. So you guys should play it. It's from the 80s. It's based on a movie. You guys should go and try it if you like abandonware. Here in Spain is maybe not as important, but when I talk at a security conference, you know, it's cool for Spanish developers. Okay, so like any research, we should start by talking about the history and looking at the previous art, right? So what this talk is about is looking at what mechanisms we have today for a password reset, and what are the vulnerabilities, what is the issues with implementation, and if there is ways to actually exploit it, right? So, who has recently reset a password? You? Like, how did you do it? Was it linked to the email, or was it a text?
It was Twitter. They send an email to an email, and then there was a link.
And how does that link look like? Does it maybe have, like, your name on it, or when you click on it, like you see that it has like a long hash that maybe makes the link unique? Okay. So what other mechanisms do you guys know how to reset the password? Because that's the most straightforward one, right? You get an email, then you click on it, it's a unique email, ideally it's one-time use, so if someone looks at your email, they cannot reset the password again. So what other ways do you know that you can reset passwords?
Security questions?
Security questions, that's an excellent one. It's actually a very weak choice because per open source intelligence, there's a lot of things that you can find out. There's actually recently, maybe you saw it, but there was this video that was actually asking questions to people on the street, like, oh yeah, so I see some nodding. It's very interesting. So password reset over questions is kind of like straightforward, so I won't be talking about that because you guys already know that's not the best way. So I definitely encourage to not enable it or disable it or just put some random stuff there so no one can actually guess. Any other ways to reset passwords?
Text message.
Text message, a very common one, right? You get a one-time code in your text, so we have authentication in the two ways, like something that you know, which is your password, something that you actually have, that is your phone. So for reset password, it takes advantage of that. So when it's actually to physically have access to your device unlocked, to be able to reset passwords, or not, which is what we're going to see. And is there any other ways we can do password reset that you can come up with? Because that's the one we're going to talk about now, which is receiving a phone call. You ever guys reset a password like that, or see the option you can get an automated phone call? So if for some reason you cannot receive texts, then you can get over the phone that code. So we'll be looking into that. But first of all, let's talk about voicemail systems. So the theme this year at DEFCON was actually 1983, right? It's about the dystopian world and how all technologies are being used today, if it's still secure. So the first thing I did was I wanted to learn from the hackers from the 80s, because first of all, they are the coolest one. They are the ones that started the scene. And we have voicemails. We have voicemails in the 80s, and that was a lot of the phreaking movement, which a lot of the hacking actually implied, hacking telephone lines, because that's how you got access to machines and mainframes and stuff like that. So I went to read these things. Basically, by then you got like, you know, texts or BBS and things like that, like text files that with articles about hacking. That's how I started actually to learn about Trojans and things like that. So I went back to the FRAC magazines and some of those really cool electronic magazines to learn how hackers were doing this in the 80s. How were they hacking voicemail systems? And then we talk about why that's important. So I selected 5 paragraphs from what I learned from the previous article that will be very important for what we are going to talk about. So in hacking telephone answering machines, I'm not going to say that. It says, something that it says is you can just enter all 2-digit combinations until you get the right one. And then a little bit below it says a more sophisticated and fast way to do this is to take advantage of the fact that such machines typically do not read 2 numbers at a time and discard them, but just look for the correct sequence. What does that say? So if I do a little bit of war dialing, that is basically I brute force like phone numbers to find machines that answer to them, the next thing I want to do is to log in, right? Back in the 80s, the ping was 2 digits, which is not a long key space, but you know, you still need to know it. One of the things that this paper is talking about is very interesting because if you want to try 2 pings, right, you will try 1, 2, and then 2, 3. But this person find out that if you do 1, 2, 3, the machine will process it by looking if it's 2, 3 or 1, 2. So you only have to enter 3 digits instead of 4 to actually try 2 pings, which is very important. Like learning from this, actually hacking AT&T answering machines quick and dirty by old SAR actually took this and said, okay, what is the most efficient combination that I could actually brute force the entire 2-key space? It will be this. By entering this sequence, you are basically trying all the possible combinations in a more efficient way than just entering one by one, which is very interesting. What else? We actually have, of course, like we have today, default passwords. For example, people are humans. Humans have patterns, right? So they tend to use like a very obvious password, like 1111, 999, 1234, like guess what? That was the same in the 80s. And something else that we learned in the hacking answering machines in the 90s was there is also the old change the message secret to make it say something to the effect of this line accepts all Tor charges, so you can build third parties close to that. What does it mean? What it means is that actually inmates, people that were in jail, they wanted to get free calls. So they will basically record in the answering machine, yes, I accept. So when it will call, it will actually, the person that was calling to reroute the thing and asking, do you want to accept the toll charges, will actually listen to the voicemail message saying, yes, I accept, and so they will get free calls, which is, if you think about it, is very, very smart. So what did we learn from looking at how the hackers did it in the 80s about the security bar from voicemail systems back then? They have default passwords, they have common passwords, they have brute forcing passwords. There was efficient brute forcing by sending multiple passwords at once, and the greeting message was an attack vector. Cool. So let's play a game, let's do a checklist, and let's take what we learned from the 80s, translate it to today, and see where we are at. And I did this research for American carriers, so I don't have data for the Spanish carriers yet, but I don't think it's going to vary too much. So, checklist time, default passwords. So AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Verizon are the 4 biggest American carriers. This probably applies to you a lot, right? Because you're from the US. So do you have any of this? Sprint? Cool. Well, at least it's 7 digits, right? So the thing is, they all have default passwords. So when you buy a phone and you don't set up your voicemail system with your own PIN, so AT&T, the PIN will be 6 ones. T-Mobile will be the last 4 digits of your phone number, which is obviously not a secret. For Sprint, it will be the last 7 digits of your phone number, and from Verizon, it will be the last 4. So if I know your voicemail, if I know your phone number, I know your PIN, your default PIN. Common passwords. According to a fantastic research that I encourage you to go read, it's an article, it's not like a complicated paper. This is based on actually pins from credit cards, but this person took basically from the deep web tons of leaks of pins, right? And learned a number of things that apply to voicemail systems that have 4-digit pins. For example, the top 20 pins are the ones that you see on the left. And that is basically the pins that the people will choose the most. In a way that if you want to have a 20% opportunity to guess a pin correctly, you pick the 20 top pins, and every 4th person you will get it right. So that means that me, by trying 20 pins, I would probably guess around here like, 20 pins. Obviously you guys are smarter than that and probably don't have common patterns, or at least I hope so, but it's very, very significant. It's a 20% by just trying 20 pins. Something very important that I want to ask you guys, if you see the graph here, it says that another thing that they actually extrapolated from this research was that most of the pins started by 19. Who can think of why is that? It's the birth year. It's the birth year, right? So a lot of people choose the birth year as actually a pin. So that is also valid. So we have common passwords today as well. Brute forceable passwords. AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, they all allow, and actually is the default 4-digit pin. And we'll see why this is brute forceable. But we also have efficient brute forcing today. I realized when I was doing my test that I can enter multiple pins at the same time. If you use the pound when I interact with a voicemail system, right? I will call in and it tells me, please put your pin and press pound. You know what? I can just enter 3 pins with the pound as it will be an enter, and it will choose the right one if it's obviously in the sequence, right? The best thing is I don't have to wait for error messages. It's just the way like voicemail systems, and actually any calling system works today. You want to get quickly when you maybe call your bank, and you want to go through the please pick 1, please pick 2, please pick 3, and you want to go quickly through that. But we can abuse that, so we can have a very efficient brute forcing. So, with everything that I learned from the 80s, everything then I realized that we were still doing today, I wrote a Python script, voicemailcracker.py, that will actually allow you to brute force voicemails by doing it fast, cheap, easy, efficiently, and undetected. So, fast. It uses Twilio's API to make hundreds of calls at the same time. What is Twilio? Twilio is a service that allows you to programmatically make phone calls, send text, interact with it. And this is very useful for companies, right? Also for scammers, or maybe when you want to have politic that they want to, call you and convince you to vote whatever candidate. So for very, very cheap, you can actually programmatically with Python, with whatever language you want, use this service to make calls. So I use it to interact with voicemail systems and brute force pings. It's cheap. The entire 4-digit key space for less than $40. That's like 30 euros. A 50% chance of correctly guessing a 4-digit ping based on the research that we saw before. So if I want to have a 50% chance of guessing your ping if I'm typing your phone number, it will cost me $5, 3 euros. But we can take actually a different approach that is more interesting because we know what are the default pings, right? So I can actually check 1,000 phone numbers for the default pin directly instead of trying to enforce it for $13, for 10 euros. So, and if we think that the research says that I have a 20% chance of guessing it correctly, that's like, about 50 people or so that I would probably get the right pin. It's easy, it's fully automated, and it's configured with special payloads to interact with the voicemail system of every carrier. And it's efficient because it optimizes brute forcing, it tries many pins at the same time, and it uses existing research to favor pins that are more likely than the others. Okay, cool. But the most important is that it's undetected. Because think about it. If I call your phone number and I want to hack your voicemail system, right? The way it would work is you will pick up the phone, so I cannot interact with your voicemail number. So I somehow needed to find out how I can call you and know that you're not going to pick up or that your phone is actually offline. So I get direct to the voicemail and then it will prompt me to enter the login if I wanted to, right? So Slide Dial is some marketing service that basically what they are trying to do is to call you 3 or 4 times at the same time. It will actually overload the line, and so the next call will actually go to the voicemail. But that is very noisy and it's not really reliable. We can use OSINT, open source intelligence. I'm sure when you guys take a flight, you will tweet about it, right? Oh, I'm going to, I don't know, to Visa or whatever. So I know when you are taking a plane and your phone is going to be offline. I can time my attack and launch it there because I know it will go straight to voicemail. Or at night, you may use Do Not Disturb. HLR database, this is very, very cool. So there is actually a public GSM global database that has information about all our cell phones that you can query for 10 cents. And it gives you a lot of information, among others, if your phone is connected to an actual tower. You actually can go now and for free, because there are trials, you can know who of you is in which country. Because it will tell you it's connected to a tower in Spain or connected to, so that's already a privacy issue for something that you can do for free in the internet, right? But it tells you also if it's connected to a tower. So I know if you are not, then time my attack once again. But as hackers, as researchers like you guys, we always want to aim for the best approach, for the most efficient, for the one that is the silver bullet. So it turns out that by doing some Googling, in the US there is something that is called the backdoor voicemail numbers. What is that? So it turns out that carriers think it's a good idea to have available services that you can call in. So basically, instead of calling you, I will call that service, and it will ask me for the phone number I want to leave a message to. So instead of calling you and then expecting that you don't pick up, so I reach the voicemail, I just call this service, and it will ask me, hey, enter the voicemail. So it's a service to directly leave voicemails. But I use it to actually brute force your pins. So that means that also voicemail cracker supports the backdoor voicemail numbers. So you have an option to use backdoor voicemail numbers in order to launch your attack. So this is a lot of talking, but we want to see the actual real hack, right? So this is a demo of how I brute force one of my phone numbers. So what you see on the left is the simulator. It's actually my phone. It's not a simulator. And on the right is the tool, right? And you see that I use the option brute force. And what I'm giving it is the victim's number. I choose the carrier that it is. That's important because it needs specific payloads for every carrier to interact with the voicemail system. I need to pick the caller ID so it doesn't look like it comes from me, right? And I use, in this case, a backdoor number. And if you see the last option is top pin, so it's using the research that we saw before to just try 20 pins. And the right pin is going to be 1983. So if you see it's trying 3 pins at the same time, because that's the maximum with 2 cores, but it makes it efficient because I only need to call 8 times instead of 20, right? And let me ask you one thing while it's brute forcing the pins and just trying to figure out. How do you think the tool knows when I got the correct pin? Because it's making calls, it's interacting with the voicemail system. I assume, right, you guys know when there is authentication, there is like the access granted or access denied. But this is a voicemail, right? How do I know when I got the correct pin? Any guesses?
Do the carriers stop the call when there's a third wrong try?
Fantastic. Yes, the carriers, when I try 3, it will automatically hang up for security purposes. So how do I guess the correct pin?
You can detect the one that takes the longer to finish the call.
That's fantastic. That's exactly how I do it. So people thought that I was doing some type of sound processing to try to figure out if the message comes of, you know, like, oh, this is your voicemail or whatever. But it's exactly as you figured out. I just looked at the duration of the call. So I actually used the API that from Twilio and instructed to, after trying to dial that long number with the 3 pins, to wait 10 extra seconds. So if I know the duration of the call, if it hangs up, because it's always the same. As soon as it picks up, it will enter the sequence and it will hang up. So it's always like 15 seconds. But if I instruct it to wait 10 extra seconds, as soon as it finishes, if it doesn't hang up, I know I got the correct ping. So it's going after the easiest and most efficient solution. And as you see, it took 100 seconds to brute force it, and we found out that it's 1983. Right. So now we know that voicemails today are very weak, and we have a tool that helps us very easily and very cheap to brute force a voicemail systems. So what? Why was I invited to come to the university to talk about this? Do you guys even care about the voicemail? If I hack your voicemail, am I going to find something like that is going to be really bad for you guys? Right? Not really. I mean, if it's like me, I only have marketers or like scams in my voicemail. No one really leaves voicemails today, especially not with WhatsApp, that you can set voice records and stuff, right? But this is actually what makes the research interesting, right? Because we kind of discarded voicemail. Everyone forgot about it. We all have it enabled, but no one thinks about it. But it turns out that we can reset passwords over phone call, as I mentioned before. On the left, you see WhatsApp. On the top, you see LinkedIn. On the bottom, you see Google for 3 different scenarios that we'll talk about it later. But the bottom is for 2FA, on the top is for password reset, on the left is for registration, right? Because in WhatsApp, you don't have a username and password. You register by providing your phone number. So what happens if I am a malicious person and I know your phone number, that's not a secret, and I go and I try to reset your password over email or over your phone number, and you will receive a call and you don't pick up. What happens?
The voicemail kicks in.
Voicemail will pick up, right? And that's the problem, because the recording doesn't detect if it's a human or a voicemail picking up the phone. So the recording will start to play and say, your security code is 134576, and repeat it like 3 or 4 times depending on the service. But you know what? If that gets recorded in your voicemail, and I have access to it because I can easily brute force your PIN, I can now compromise all your online accounts. So as you guys correctly guessed, the problem is we have a password reset feature that calls you, doesn't know who picks up, and just picks out the secret. And that secret is stored in the weakest link that your browser may have, which is your voicemail. Which, how many of you does actually know his PIN for his voicemail? Wow. Well, at least I expected you to do it. So think about it. You guys don't even know your PIN. Let me know, I can figure it out for you guys. So, how does the attack vector look like, right? This is the cool thing. So, we will brute force the voicemail system, ideally using voicemail backdoor numbers. And we ensure that the calls go straight to voicemail, right? And we talked about it through call flooding, open source intelligence, whatever you want to, just pick your time with that person. But that is not to brute force it. That is only because when I know already the ping to your voicemail, It's that call that you receive from PayPal, for example, that I need to time when you have the phone off, because it will call you, it won't call me, right? So I need it to go straight to voicemail. So that's the only call that I really need you to have your phone number off, but it's not very difficult as we saw. We start the password reset process by using the call me feature. We listen to the recorded message containing the secret. Boom, profit. The best thing is my tool can do all this for you automatically. Let's compromise WhatsApp. I know this is like one that people really like. So we are actually going to compromise a WhatsApp account. Oh, no, okay, this is PayPal. So, what you have on the left is again my phone. This is the victim's phone number. Okay. And this is iOS. On your right side, you have the attacker's phone. But you know the best thing? It's actually an Android simulator. I didn't even need an actual phone to actually hack someone's WhatsApp. It's actually an Android simulator. I downloaded the APK, the Android APK, installed it in my emulator, and that's good enough. On top, you see the tool running, and on the bottom, you'll see why we need that. Here we need sound. So you see that what I'm going to do, this is my WhatsApp, right? The victim's WhatsApp. So, and on the right, you'll see that it's the first time I launch WhatsApp, so it's going to ask me, hey, you want to register? Yeah, sure, I'm going to enter your phone number. I hope you guys can hear the sound. It's so important for the end of the day. So you're going to see that on the left, in order to simulate that the person goes offline, I'm going to put it in airplane mode. Again, because WhatsApp is going to call the victim. So it's only for that call that I need it to be offline, right? That's what I just did. So WhatsApp does something interesting. It asks me to, it sends a text, right? But I don't want that. But if you wait 1 minute, it gives you the option for call me, which is exactly what we are taking advantage of. So I say now, yeah, sure, call me. Because the victim is offline, you see, waiting the network. WhatsApp is calling, the voicemail will pick up, to which I have access, right? So, and now I use my tool to interact with the voicemail system to retrieve the newest message, which actually will contain the recording with the code that I need. So I use the option message. It's the same options as before, and the last one obviously is the PIN, because now I need it, right? In order to log into your voicemail and retrieve the newest message. So that's what it's doing. I forwarded it, and the tool gives me a URL with a recording. And it should be the newest message that is on the voicemail, which should be WhatsApp. It's interacting with the voicemail, going through the menu. And that's it. We just compromise someone else's WhatsApp. So now think about this. It's pretty crazy. Look, you will see here, it's now gone. As soon as it comes online and you landed from the plane, it's gone. So think about it. WhatsApp has end-to-end encryption. It's an open source protocol that is super secure. The app has no issues as in the binary. And still we can compromise it so easily. It's pretty crazy, right? And this is really not WhatsApp's fault. It's more like the state of the security in which carriers have their voicemail systems. But remember, an attacker is always going to go for the weakest link. Any questions so far? Does it make sense? Is this cool or not? Okay, cool. But
one question.
Yeah.
How do the both automated systems interact with each other? Because the voicemail, at least the one I used to have, has a message beforehand, and then there's a beep, and then you can record the message. Doesn't the code I can imagine a possibility where the code is sent to you during that time and it's not recorded, right?
That's another fantastic question that you have. So, just to rephrase it, is basically you have a welcome message, but the message from WhatsApp will start to play right away, so you may not have enough time, but you already control it, so I can do two things. First of all, some services repeat it for 3 times, and I found that it's time enough. But your question is still valid because some not, they only play for once. What do? I change the greeting message to a second of silence, because I already own your voicemail, right? That's the beauty of it. And we'll actually go back to that. Great. So back to the presentation. So are we done yet? Not really. It turns out that some services actually found out about this, so they applied a new protection. It's the user interaction-based protection. So now, when actually WhatsApp calls you, not really WhatsApp doesn't do that, as we just saw, but when the service calls you to provide over the phone call the secret code, the first thing it will say is, please press any key to hear the code, or please press a specific key like 1 or 2 or whatever, or please enter the code. So now, if you think about it, my attack doesn't work anymore, because the phone call will take place, the voicemail picks up, and it will say, please press a key, but I can't press a key for the victim, right? I can't. So it will never get to say the code, so the voicemail only records this. So that is the current recommended protection. So let's make a common exercise, because it's working very well. You guys are doing fantastic questions. How could we possibly bypass this and still compromise the others? What do you guys think? How could we do this? If you guys understood, just to rephrase, now when the service calls, it will say, please press a key. But I can't press a key.
You have been pressing keys automatically all this time. What? Can you just press another one, like send a pound and a...
But I can't do it when you receive a call, right? I can do it to interact with the voicemail system, but then like, okay, I'm going to reset the password. It calls, but I can't be pressing keys there. When I record a message? You are going very, very well. I'm just waiting for you to rephrase it.
You can take silence, you can change
So you are saying of changing the greeting message, right? So that's exactly right. So I actually wanted to play a game, but you guys are way too smart. You are at a very good school. So you guys know what this is? So actually explain it yourself.
The beginners of Apple, they explain that the books that they use these users to find Siri to have the life and good information.
Exactly. So it turns out that Captain Crunch is actually like very well known for the freedom marker of telephones. Figured out that this device, this whistle, that was coming in some serials that were called Crunch, the tone that it generates was actually the exact frequency that was used to actually unlock international calls. So he would literally whistle in the phone that, and it will sound like the phone tones when you click like beep, 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 right? And he will get international calls. So that was the first hint. The second hint was that I cheated. That I told you we were doing a checklist, and I didn't talk about the last one, which was the greeting message. Again, something we learned from the 80s. Was an attack vector. So all we have to do is we have to record DTMF tones as the greeting message. So basically the tones that you hear beep, 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 we record that as the greeting message, and it will fool the service every single time. So if you think about it, this is one of the beauty of like being like you guys, right? Engineers, because you don't just look at the instructions and just that's how you understand a machine. You actually go deep and want to understand how it really works. So if you take someone and say, how does the phone call really work? Well, you have to press keys and then you make a phone call. But that's not true. In reality, you have to send specific frequencies that the machine will hear, and that's when you make the call. You don't actually need to press physically anything. And that's what makes the difference here. Understanding to the core how the system works. And that's how we found out also how to hack it, right? Because if we would just stop that, oh man, it asked me to press the key. I can't press a key. I can't physically press a key. Then we will think this is a good protection. But because we understand that in reality a key, all it does is generate dual tones for a specific frequency, and that's what the system expects to hear, then we know how to hack it. So how does the attack vector look like when we have systems with those protections? Again, we brute force the voicemail system is the tool that I talked about. We update the reading message according to the account to be hacked, and then just the the same. You should call, go straight to voicemail, we start the password reset, we listen to the recorded message, and that's it. And again, my tool can do all this for you. Let's compromise PayPal. So, PayPal, the way it works is, when you reset password or phone call, instead of telling you to press a key and it will give you the code, it works the other way around. It's actually pretty smart. We're going to see that, oh, this is WhatsApp. Okay, I need to change it. Let me actually change it so you guys can do that preview. Let's see. Okay, so the way it works is, when we reset the password with just an email, which you will agree is not a secret, it will display a 6-digit code on the UI. Then I will get a phone call, and that's the code I'm supposed to enter. So it's actually user interaction based protection, right? Because I can't press the key for the victim. But now we know that I can record the tones that relate to that, that basically represent that code that is being displayed, and then it's supposed to be working. So let's look at it. So as you can see on the left, I have my tool again. I just brute forced the ping. So I'm just gonna reset the password of this victim. All I needed was his email. We're talking PayPal. We're talking real money here. So you see that I will pick as the attacker the have us called you. And what I'm going to do here is, it's a little small, but you see that this time in my tool, I use the brute force, the greeting message. This option allows you to change the greeting message with the specific payload, DTMF tones payload that you want. And I made it very verbose. If you see here, it says, this is the ping for the voicemail. I want to compromise PayPal because, again, these are very specific payloads for every account that I have to figure out by reversing it. And I made it like PayPal code is 6353, which is what displays. So now what it did, it changed the greeting message. All I have to do is call again because it was already calling, but I don't care, right? So I press to call again, so PayPal is calling again, but now the greeting message will actually play those tones, and in 3, 2, 1, it's recorded so it won't fail. We just compromise PayPal. So now we have access to that person's money, which is pretty crazy, just by exploiting again the voicemail system. So, again, don't go out and do something evil because you can still do that, okay? There is better ways to make money. Yeah, please.
What if you change the code or the code again?
What if I change the code before they call again? I'm not sure I understood the question.
When you change the code from the greeting message, you then press call again
Yeah.
to repeat the code. What if this code was empty? Because automatically.
Well, that's actually an excellent point. I didn't thought about it. So what he's saying basically, every single call that I request, the code should change, right? I mean, it will in this case work because I know there will be time enough, but in the end, it's not really something that they thought of as a solution, right? It's something that is a collateral damage in this case in a good way. But I agree, if the code will change in every single call, then for this particular case, maybe the timing will be off, so there wouldn't be enough time. But I think that's more a monkey patch, really, than an actual solution to this. But good catch, indeed. So, and then there's always the war. You guys will learn it as you get into security, hopefully. We need a lot of security guys in the world. There is always a constant war. That's at least from my experience between security, usability, and performance. We are always fighting this that triangle, right? Because when we want something super secure with encryption and all that stuff, you know, the user experience for maybe an older person is not great. Or if we want to add like extra layers and complex and stuff, the performance is really good. So we're always fighting. So we know now about this. So what can we compromise? We can do password reset over phone call. This is an Alexa kind of top 100 choice that I did. I'm not favoring anything, but you can compromise PayPal, Instagram, eBay, LinkedIn, Netflix. You can compromise 2FA by the big four, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Yahoo. That means if you get like a password database leak, but the person has 2FA, you can still compromise them. Imagine compromising Apple, that's where we have all the pictures. Verification, we can compromise WhatsApp, we can compromise Signal, that was used by Snowden. Remember, to do all the leaks and communicate securely. Twilio is great. The own service that I use to make the hundreds of calls allows you to own a caller ID. That means that I can own your phone number when I call someone or send text, because I will verify that I own it by pressing 1 when I receive a key. So I can actually call on your behalf. I mean, there are services online that you can pay and do that, but this is kind of legit because carriers approved this. Google Voice is actually interesting. It's used as a virtual phone number, but you have to attach it to an actual number, right? The virtual number is to attach to a real number. And it's used for a lot of scams. And now I can just attach phone numbers to people and use it for my own malicious purposes. But the one that I thought was really, really cool was when I found this. Consent. When we think about consent, right, providing consent, we think about lawyers, we think about signing paperwork, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, Location Smart is a service in the United States, I should say was, that had agreements with carriers to be able to, listen to this, track 24 hours on real-time people through their phones. This was an agreement with the carriers. How do you prevent consent? I let you guys, I picked the video from YouTube from them. I let you guys see how you provide consent in order to say, yeah, I'm cool that you track. And this is not them. This is, I can go register in the service and say, I want to track that person. He needs to give me consent.
The screen that you showed that you're seeing right now is a demo that we have on our website. It's smart.com/try.
This is a public website, a demo that you can go. I can enter my phone number so that I can provide consent, so that I can track myself.
So let's go ahead and I click the box and say yes, I agree to locate. The screen now shows that it's uploaded to call my device to get my information. That's a nice ringtone.
Press 1.
Yes.
In this case, he answered yes because it was press 1 or say yes. Remember, we could report yes as the greeting message. And then, boom, he knows now where he is. He has access 24 hours to his location. This is crazy. I can go to this website, put your phone number, and do what I was telling before with my tool to press 1 for you. Now I can track you. Imagine this for law enforcement. How useful this is. How it can be used, in an abusive way. So, open source. When you do research, you want to back up it with demos and with something that peer review could actually take place. So, I always release code, but in this case, the problem is this is still vulnerable. There is a lot of carriers that you can do this to. So instead of me releasing a tool that out of the box allows you to go and compromise someone's voicemail, I released a voicemail automator that I encourage you to go and take a look and test on your own phone. So basically it removed from voicemail tracker that there is no brute force. Why? Because so you can still try on your own phone because you know the pin to your own phone. Everything that I claim, and you shouldn't take for granted what I say, right? And there is support for only one carrier. In this case, it's T-Mobile. It's an American phone, so maybe you have difficulty getting access to a SIM card. But if you have a friend or something, maybe through eBay or something, you can get a SIM card if you want to test yourself. Maybe the school can get one. If I will have to, I will definitely give you one. Maybe I can get one and give you guys one. But you can still change the greeting message. You can retrieve the messages, and the code is just right there. So recommendations, this is important, right? Don't use automated calls for security purposes. If not possible, the text answering machine failed. This is actually, I should remove it because it's very unreliable. It's very difficult to detect if it's a machine speaking or you, because you can still try to speak with like her, or you can just use the say whatever command in Mac when you want to talk about the machine. So actually, this is interesting. I recommend requiring user interaction for providing the secret, and I just showed you guys how to bypass that. But that is with the hope that actually carriers ban DTMF tones from being recorded as a greeting message. I don't think there is a reason to have a greeting message with beep, 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 right? So user interaction is good, but not if we can record the DMF tones as greeting messages. Recommendation for carriers, ban the DMF tones from greeting messages, eliminate backdoor voicemail services, or at least don't allow the login from those, right? I'm not going to call a third party to log into my voicemail. I call myself. Voicemail disabled by default, that is unfortunately not true. It comes, I was able, with consent of course, to set actually for the first time the ping for people by just calling them, because they just never set it up in first place. That's pretty crazy. The first call is the person that gets to set it up. It can only be activated from the actual phone, like with a special code, you know, pound 123, whatever, so you actually need physical access to an unlocked device rather than just calling a phone number. No default ping, don't allow common pings, detect abuse in brute force attempts, don't process multiple pings at once. Recommendations for you, very important, just disable voicemail. If you don't use it, disable. But there are some carriers that still allow you to re-enable it by calling in. So maybe it's even better to just use the longest ping possible and make it random, right? And honestly, you can just forget about it, because nowadays in the iPhone and stuff, you have the visual voicemail, so you don't really need to set it up. And if you forget once, you just call the carrier and give your information, you know, you authenticate yourself, and that's it. But you probably never even thought about this. Don't provide phone numbers to online services unless required. If you don't need to give your phone number to, say, Facebook for it to operate, don't do it. Why would you give them your phone number, right? Not a thing of like data collection, but you are just opening a new gate to authentication that could be, you know, problematic. Unless, of course, it's the only way to get 2FA. 2FA is very, very important. More important than not leaving your phone, right? So you need 2FA, that's very important. But if there is no app-based 2FA, then use a virtual number, because there is things like, you know, I could try to guess your phone number by, I wrote a tool actually that's pretty interesting. Did you know that if you have PayPal and eBay, I will know 7 of your 10 digits, well, here in Spain it's actually 9 digits, I think, the phone number, but I will know 7 of your 10 digits of the phone number by just resetting the password. Why? Because when you go reset the password, it will tell you, PayPal will tell you, the text will be sent to 408, 59. But then I go to eBay and it will give me the last 4. So, you know, just by resetting passwords, I gain 7 of the 10 digits of your phone number. That's pretty crazy. And I really like always to finish the talks with one slide that kind of explains everything. It says something like, automated phone calls are a common solution for password reset, 2FA, and verification services. These can be compromised by leveraging all weaknesses in current technology to exploit the weakest link, which is voicemail systems. And in reality, I think we are way over time because I made it long. I mean,
We are not over time.
No? I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I could go quickly over the second part. The second part is basically the same, but focusing on password reset over SMS. You guys cool? And I do quite quick. You don't answer, I'm happy to talk. I mean, I love it. Okay, so if we say we are in a world that we remove the password reset over phone call, right? Are we good already? I mean, I guess I answered the question already, but we are not. Who has left their phone unattended? Did you ever left your phone here? It's locked, encrypted, it's military grade, whatever. You have the longest ping in the world and all that stuff, and you went to the bathroom because you feel safe, right? In the end, in the news, you probably read a while ago, Apple had a very strong case against the FBI because there was a very bad person that committed a crime, and the FBI wanted access to that phone, and they even went as far as asking for a backdoor, and there was actually talks at a political level about it. So you're saying, dude, the FBI cannot unlock a device, right? So of course no one's going to unlock my device or do anything malicious with it, right? So who has left their phone unattended to go to the bathroom or so? So the rest are just slackers, because I know. Okay, so did you disable your assistant in the mobile lock screen? So if I take your phone now and keep the home button pressed or say, hey Siri, will it be activated? Could I interact with it? Right? Most of us do. It's actually for convenience. If you remove it, kind of the hey Siri kind of sucks, because you have to actually authenticate and then say hey Siri. So again, we are in that trade-off of usability and security. By the way, the one on the left is Cortana, it's Windows Phone. I think it's 0.1%. I think the hardest part of this research was actually finding that icon. Yeah. So, did you disable notifications in the lock screen? If I send you a WhatsApp, would I go to your phone and actually look at part of the content? You know, when we get the notifications on the screen, like this one. But in my case, you don't see anything because obviously what I'm going to talk about. So probably some of you guys have a thing that you can actually look at the text without unlocking the device. Again, for convenience, right? Cool. So what do you guys think can the system do while the device is locked? So if I could borrow your device and it's locked, probably you won't give it to me now. But what is the thing that you think, and I always like, you know, to make it an exercise that we all think about it, and we have really great answers before. So what is the single worst thing you think I could do with your locked device? If you have the notifications and Siri. Read the text. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you have like really compromising texts. Let's assume that's not the case, even though we all have at some level. Okay, I could read your text. What else? I don't really need Siri for that because I could look at the notification there. What else could you do?
You have to reply some notifications.
That's a great example. I can also reply, not only read, but I can also reply.
You can make calls.
I can make calls. That's a great one, right? I can make calls, and sometimes we all trust the caller ID, right? If I receive a phone number and it pops up that it's my friend, I will just listen, right? I may be able to recognize the voice and stuff, but this extends to things like pretending to be a bank or things like that. Anything else? We can make calls. We can read text. We can reply to texts. We can send emails. We can read emails. So those are all things that you could do that you didn't thought about when I'm logged. So this is one of the research that I did that is actually the most popular one on my website. So I was able to steal $3,000 under 2 minutes if I had access to the locked device. And I'm sure all of you left your device unattended for 2 minutes. So let's look at the videos. Actually, let me first explain. Venmo, I think in Spain there's something like that. So it's like a service to make it very easy to pay and request, right? What is the name again? Bizum. So this is exactly Bizum, right? I can request money or I can pay someone. So this is a locked device. Who am I? I'm asking Siri, it's locked. So I know now the phone number. Obviously I changed it from private. 6753, say start. So I'm now enabling, by sending a text, the feature that allows me to request a payment over SMS. The device is locked. I just activated that. So now I go on Venmo and I request with my account, the attacker account, money from that person because I obtained his phone number from Siri, get it to me. In this case it will be $1, but the upper limit is $2,999 per day. So you see that the victim just got read my latest text.
86753 said, attacker account requests $1 from PWNED to pay. Reply with 279,471.
So it tells me if I reply, which is that code. Yes.
What do you want to say?
279471.
Ready to send it?
Oh yes. And I just stole money from that person under 2 minutes. It could have been $3,000.
Okay.
So it's really that simple. So actually, this is the analytics of my website, right? I have a number of articles. My website is not very popular, but this is the top 7 of how the people gets to my website. This is really, really evil people in the world. Actually, I felt really good because you see the first one is how to steal money. If you Google it, I mean, now I think I'm third, but for a year I was the first result. When you Google how to steal money, my website was the first one. Which I think I feel proud of it, but I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, right? So, what is the goal of the research, right? When I saw that I could steal money and I was like, you know, SMS and all that stuff. So I wanted to broaden the impact. I wanted to go beyond just stealing money, which brings us back to password reset, right? Because I could just steal money, you have that app installed, and if I have access and all that stuff, or I can start to compromise all your accounts. So, actually, I'm not finding anything new again. This is very well known. Like, I used the year feature in Google to try to find articles, how back in time I could go talking about we should not use SMS for security purposes. And I found it back in 2015. So I found for every single year the same topic. We should stop using SMS. Guess what? Today we still use actually NIST, which kind of provides, well, maybe you know better, but I think it provides standards for a government, right?
Yeah, like encryption.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually discouraged, but this was in the draft and they removed it because it got a lot of heat. But they actually discouraged SMS. Like they said, it's deprecated. We should not be using it. And if you use Reddit, the Spanish version is Meneame. There was a recent hack like 6 months ago that they got compromised because someone did a SIM swapping. So basically, they compromised the SMS of two-factor and they were able to hack the servers because they got access to the source code. So, objective. My objective was to help push the industry to stop relying on SMS as a secure channel. Actually, the title of these talks was Yet Another Reason to Ditch SMS. So, how did I first go about finding services that actually use SMS for security purposes? There is a great website, usshortcodedirectory.com, that actually gives you all the shortcodes. Shortcodes are basically not entire phone numbers, but like what we saw before, 85157. Like, you know, that's what we usually get publicity about it. And thanks to this, it actually tells you what it is for. So we can do password reset over SMS from workers, PayPal, Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, eBay, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter. Two-factor authentication, Microsoft, Apple, Yahoo, verification, just like before, the same thing but over SMS. So let's look at the attack vector, which we as an attacker is what we want to understand. What do I need to do? I need to obtain the victim's email. I need to use it to initiate password reset in all services. I need to obtain the secret code from the SMS. I have to use it to complete the reset password process and set the new passwords, right? So I know your email, I reset the password, I look at the SMS somehow, I put it in there, complete the password reset and set the password that I want. Okay, how to obtain the victim's email? We just saw how. And this again is in a scenario in which, because there are other ways to do this, I'm focusing on having access to your locked device, which was the purpose of my research. Like, we all feel very safe with our encrypted phones, but we still have weaknesses that till iOS 11, for example, was coming on by default. So I just said to Siri, send an attacker email to this saying this, right? And basically, I'm sending myself an email, and that's how I know your email, right? If I take your phone and say send an email to me, I know your email. Okay. Obtain the secret codes from SMS. We just saw how we could do this if I have physical access to your device. I just say read my text if it doesn't fit, or I just directly look at the code in the screen. So we get 2 of the 5 steps needed. Sorry for the light, but we're still missing 3 steps of our attack vector. So at the same time, there is a lot to compromise. I don't just want to compromise your Facebook. I want the Twitter, I want the WordPress, I want everything. So we need automation. I want to do this very quick. I don't want to do this manually, right? I want to be like James Bond and come with a device or something and just give me your phone 1 second and then you're done. Or at least just to show up with friends, right? And maybe they get interested into security, which is actually why I'm here. So I came up with ransomware. I mean, I'm not very creative, so ransomware mobile, that's the best I can do. I actually wrote a tool, just a proof of concept, that it automates the entire password reset process over SMS. Do you guys know what Selenium is? Yeah, right, it's to do testing on the UI. Rather than doing testing on the actual code, you want to see if I press this button and then this, does the UI still look good and stuff. Guess what? I can use it to interact with the UI to pick the options to go reset passwords. And I do it this way rather than just doing myself the post requests and get requests and all that stuff, because I actually found out that it's a fantastic way to bypass captchas. Because when I do it, I started first like, reversing, just looking at the traffic and implementing it. It was tedious, it takes long, it changes all the time, and I was getting challenged with captchas, which it doesn't matter, I can put the captcha, right? But I don't want to do this, I want to be more efficient. So I found out that with Selenium, even people that doesn't know about developing, they could do this because there is a Firefox plugin that I press record. I do the interactions to reset the password, which is usually 4 or 5 clicks. You do login, forgot my password, enter the password, click. And it will actually generate the code for me. So this is great. And it does not require, any API knowledge or anything. So now, we have all that we need. We can use my tool to do the step 2, 3, and 5, which is use it to initiate the password, we can obtain the secret code, we can use it to complete the password, and to set the new password. And the other two, we know how to do it. So this is how it looks like. On the left, you have the victim's phone, which is locked. On the right, you have my phone, which is running my fantastic ransomware app. So I will take your phone and say, send an email, and what I have is my Gmail is constantly looking for new, my Gmail, I have a Gmail account to which I will send the email from the victim's phone, and ransomware is actually monitoring the inbox. As soon as one comes, it will automatically start the reset password for that email. So it will start it for all the websites that I have programmed there. So in the phone, I will start to see incoming text with the codes. All I have to do is just write them in the UI, and it will go again to the websites, complete the password reset, and set the one that I want, that I will later go to you and say, I want $5,000 in Bitcoin to give you the password to unlock all your things. Ransomware, right? So, let me introduce you to Compromise. It's supposed to be a play of words with compromise. Again, I'm not very creative. So, Compromise is actually a millennial. He has a WordPress website. He uses Facebook, like all of us, and I'm trying to memorize what I have in the demo. And he uses PayPal for payments, and he uses Twitter to go and complain about the world, right? That's what we use Twitter for. So I think it may describe many of you, at least it describes me, I have all those services, right? So, let's look at the demo. So what you see on the right is actually Compromise's phone, and on the left is my phone as the attacker running my app.
Let's send an email to victim.ransom@gmail.com about test, saying test.
So I'm using the victim's phone to send an email to myself.
Message to victimransom@gmail.com. It says, test, ready to send it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll send it.
So you'll see that it automatically populates it there. So it will initiate the password reset automatically, but for demo purposes, so you can see, I make it so I have to click. So I have the victim's email, and I click Panel. And I made it very visual. You can do this with headless browsers, but so you see how it automatically, it's interacting with the UI to go, I'm not doing anything, it's just doing it automatically for all the websites. So it's basically going and using that email to reset the password. Now, if we look at the victim's phone, let's see what happens. Text starts to come in, right? Again, the phone is locked and encrypted. So all I have to do now, I have your phone here, I have mine here. Just look at the codes, enter them there. You see that they keep coming, and you could have this for as many websites as you want. We do now with eBay, we can do also with WordPress. I mean, you can do with many more. I just kind of wanted to get a flavor of different services that we use, right? I should type faster, sorry for this. I think this is the last one that I enter, so I'm going to be able to compromise PayPal, Facebook, Twitter, WordPress, and eBay. And if you think about it, and you wake up tomorrow and all that is gone, you will have a pretty bad day. So I click here, but I could also do automatically as soon as I enter. You see, it's setting the password, the attacker's password that you see on top, and I just compromised all those accounts. It took like, what, 2 minutes, I believe, right? This is open source. This is actually, you can use it and it will do this, and use it for malicious purposes, please. Use it to, you know, like, I was about to say with your sister or with your brother, or maybe hits me in the head. But you know, like, just to show like the problems, right? And get someone interested into security and actually to learn yourself, you can look at the code. It's the Python script. It's really not difficult. So what are the conclusions, just to finish? A lot of mobile device is still insecure because if it comes with settings that are not secure by default, as devices should be, you are opening up doors to actually get your device compromised, or at least your data. Unattended mobile devices can be bigger risk than unattended computers, and companies tend to ignore this. And I'm saying this because when you go to companies, especially if you work in security, there is all this education about if you get up, lock your computer. Lock your computer, always. But we don't really have any education, as far as I've seen, on don't leave your device unattended. Because we already assume it's locked and it's fine, but it's not, as we saw. Consequences of losing your phone are not only monetary. What happens when we lose our iPhone X? Oh man, 1,000 euros down the drain. You know what? If I get access, if I find phones and I will not be the person that I am, that's very nice, I will just go after your PayPal. I don't care about the phone. You know, I will throw it away as soon as I get all your PayPal accounts, and then I will get the rest and ask you for more money. So, can we do better? Yes, we can do better. Just to finish, I promise. Because still, you know, you need physical access to the device. So you're going to walk home and say, it's always going to be in my pocket, and that's it. But the truth is, again, I wanted to go farther. I wanted to explore ways in which we don't even need physical access to the mobile device. So we know that 3 out of the 5 steps don't need physical access. And 2 of them, which is obtaining the victim's email because I need to actually ask Siri, and obtaining the secret codes because I need to look at the screen, those I need to have physical access to the device. Well, let's see if there is ways to do that in a way that we don't need physical access to the device. So, obtaining the victim's email, we need to somehow be able to trigger Siri to send an email. How do we trigger Siri from the distance, right? I could scream, I guess, but nowadays, yeah, that would be very obvious. So, again, I went to research, and I found tons of research about showing ways of doing this that didn't get that much attention because we didn't look at the consequence of it. Okay, you could trigger Siri, okay, but what is the real impact of it? So, hidden voice commands, and this I put as reference if you guys are going to read the papers or just watch the videos or articles. Hidden voice commands is pretty smart. So basically what they do is they use Daleks from, I think it's from Doctor Who or whatever, but basically the intention is with sounds that sound like noise, they mix instructions for Siri that to the human ears, you really hear noise, right? If I will play here a noise, now I will say, or something, I could say, oh, sorry guys, I don't know what went wrong, but I probably triggered everyone's Siri, right? Because Siri could understand the things that were in between. Remote command injection on modern smartphones. This one is literally insane. So these guys are able to sound electromagnetic signals in a way that if you have your phone connected to your headphones, the coil will act as an antenna, and they send the electromagnetic waves simulating what you will do when you talk to Siri over the microphone in your headphones. So the coil will pick up the signal, and the phone will interpret it as if you will have said it over the headphones. That is insane. That is so cool. And now with Bluetooth headphones, you say, not important. Guess what? They were able to do it over the charging cable. That's insane. You guys should check this out, and they have talks on YouTube, so you don't have to read a paper that goes too much into the technical. It's insane. And then a recent one that I really like because of the simplicity is the dolphin attack. It's basically the same as the hidden voice commands, but the dolphin attack is you don't hear anything. So it's not about mixing Siri instructions among the noise. It's plain Siri instructions at a frequency that the human ear cannot hear, over 20 kilohertz, I think. The human ear cannot hear that. But guess what? The chip that processes the sound in the device can. Let's check it out. So what you will see here is it's playing a recording, right? Hey Siri, call this number. And obviously the phone picks it up, right? So they are now plugging it into this, which basically sends sound at a frequency that we can't hear, and look at the device. And you can see this is the measure for the frequency. Let me know if you hear something. Pretty crazy, right? I could be in the elevator in a routine exercise next to you in the elevator, playing that, and it just sent a, it triggered your Siri and it just sent an email. And we didn't hear anything, which is pretty awesome. So what do we have left? Obtain the secret codes from the SMS. And guess what? SMS is not designed with security in mind. It's a technology from the 80s. It's not encrypted. Everyone along the way between your device and the person that receives the text is able to look at the SMS, right? Your carrier, proxies, relays, whatever. So SS7 attacks. So SS7 is a protocol for roaming, right? It's like how calls get routed between relays, especially across countries. When I'm here, my phone is an American number, right? So it turns out that people can get access to those protocols and reroute your call to another phone, and you guys can go look at this talk. It's pretty awesome. You can do tracking, you can intercept calls. It's pretty insane. It's more high. For example, I am not able to do this because I need access to certain services and kind of gets a little shady, but law enforcement does. 2-grade downgrade attacks and broken A5. This is kind of like the standard attack on mobile devices, which is, it's very easy. There's a lot of content on the internet. And actually, Kristen Paget actually worked with me. She's amazing. And basically, with this comes, have you guys heard about this downgrade attack to 2G? Because it's super interesting. The way it works is we all have LTE and 3G, right? But I could come here and jam the signal on those frequencies, and your phone is going to try to downgrade to the bottom of 2G. So your phone will work over 2G. And probably sometimes you saw that it says GPRS if you are in a, somewhere down underground or whatever. So what happens is 2G is a protocol that is broken. The cipher is broken. So I could actually do offline attacks, intercept packages and use rainbow tables to decrypt them. Or I can actually have you connect to my tower, my fake tower, that I can just buy a phone off eBay that cost me $10. It's actually the Motorola C123 that someone wrote a firmware that actually allows you to do all this. So with the phone itself, I could do this and basically get access to your SMS. I can decrypt the protocol, not the actual SMS. That's not encrypted. It's encrypted at the protocol, but with a bad cipher. Femtocells. Femtocells is hardware that are basically mini GSM towers. And it's used maybe in big companies and stuff like that don't have signal. So it turns out that these guys, they got one from Verizon, were able to root it, and all devices connected to them, they were able to do whatever they wanted. And then SIM swapping. If you guys haven't heard about it, it's a social engineering attack. It's very common right now. You call the carrier and you convince the guy, the IT guy, that he needs to transfer that number to the new SIM card that you have. And tons of money was stolen this way from cryptocurrencies. Actually, recently, $1 million was stolen this way. You just call, and it happens a lot in T-Mobile. I actually found this article because I wanted to find something easy to read for you guys. Go and read it because you get really paranoid about it. It's really just social engineering. So, to finish, conclusions are kind of like a mix of the four. It is possible to perform these attacks without physical access to the device. And I say in theory because, I haven't shown you anything to make it. I've shown you how to do it with physical access. I gave you code. But this is theoretical, so don't take my word for it, but it would be an amazing exercise if you guys want to try. The way I picture this is a backpack with some Raspberry Pi and some SDR hardware on it that I could trigger commands and actually also decrypt SMS, right? And the rest of the stuff in the Raspberry Pi is ransom bar running and doing this. Now, why I didn't do this? Because messing with 2G is highly legal. So you will need a Faraday cage and stuff like that. And I kind of did what I wanted to do for the users. So SMS wasn't designed with something in mind. Online services should encourage updates to a fake and make SMS update. Recommendations for you: don't leave your device unattended. Disable the system and lock screen. Disable notifications. Use updates to a fake. don't provide your phone number, as I mentioned before, and check the settings to disable. There are some services that allow you to disable, like linking the SMS and only be app-based to Perfect. And thank you so much. I'm very happy to be speaking here. Thank you, guys. You guys paranoid now? So yeah, I hope the content was interesting. Very pleasure. You guys have any questions, or feel free to shoot me an email or whatever you guys want. More than happy to provide more information to you guys. And I guess I can share the slides, or like if you want to send them to the students.
Okay, yes, that would be great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Any final question, or?
I have one. How do you find out about these things? I mean, were you working in some project?
No. Like, actually, in my website, I have articles for this to research. And it was funny because the one with the SMS, so I went out with my friend, he paid for the gin, for the bottle of gin, and then the Monday he sent me like a request that I sent him money. And I didn't know that Venmo had that feature. And I saw the SMS that was saying reply with this code in order to pay. But I saw it on my lock screen, and I knew I could reply, so I was like, what? So that's when I wrote the stealing money. And then from the stealing money, what I was doing that, I had in mind that, oh wait, but I can also reset passwords over this. So that's how I came up with this. Out of concept, in reality, all that I do is usually like through observation. I'm like walking around, or an experience that I have, and it's kind of like the hacker mindset. That is something that makes, I think, security engineers from, I'm not trying to talk like good about it, don't get me wrong, but someone that has a hacker mindset that's always thinking like, how does this work, how could I break this and stuff, goes a long way, because you work out of curiosity, which is really what I did. I mean, this was on my own time, and honestly, like for the Venmo thing, they gave me $1,600. That's pretty cool. I also made money out of it. Yeah.
Did you have some voicemail system like this in Salesforce?
So you mean for landlines?
Yeah, like as a service in Salesforce. Did you before this research had this?
So you mean like if I had it on the phone, if Salesforce has?
Salesforce, did Salesforce use voicemail to voice calls to reset passwords?
So that's a great question, because then we will have to first fix it before I make it public. Actually, as working as a company, part of it is that I need to get approval to talk about it. So we don't. And if not, we obviously, in the end, all of this comes from responsible disclosure, right? I first contacted everyone, like, it's not cool just to make this public and throw companies, we all do mistakes. We cannot have perfect security. We just try to have the best as we can. When it's not cool is if companies come back to you and like try to sue you or send you a cease and desist. But I've never encountered this, and it happens. But all the companies have always been nice to me. Some of them paid me. Some of them send you a t-shirt, so you get to do free publicity for them, and you did a free pen test, but at least you get something. Yeah. Awesome. Puede ser.